it's always such a pleasure to be interviewing and hosting somebody from the garden city of our country because Bengaluru has always been a brewing pot of a lot of enterprising and amazing talents. And I'm sitting here with one who I've had the good privilege of, interacting with him through emails and through Instagram. But this is the first time we sit down to firstly face each other. Tarang Joseph, singer, songwriter, pianist, and somebody who has a lot of arrows in his quiver. I am so happy that you have chosen to speak to me as you have just released your wonderful EP, Liquid Sunshine, with 4 tracks in it. Firstly, congratulations. It has been a mammoth effort of many years, if I am not mistaken, but it's finally out there for everybody to listen to. Firstly, how are you? How have you been doing? And yeah, congratulations once again for Liquid Sunshine. How does it feel to have your ambitious baby out there now?
It's a great feeling. I just want to say, first of all, thanks for having me. This is a pleasure. And it's nice to finally talk to you face to face after like knowing of you and your work for 2 years. So this is nice. Yeah, it's I've been working on the tracks from the EP for maybe like the first draft was written of the first song, which I actually wrote Liquid Sunshine first, was around September of 22. And it's not necessarily,
Wow.
yeah, it's not necessarily that I believe now that, okay, these things necessarily take this much time to produce. It's just that I think I went with what felt natural to me and it came at its own time. Yeah. So it took about around like I put out the first track from the EP, Take Me Away, back in April of 24. So I guess almost 2 years I was kind of working on this project. Yeah.
It's interesting that, I've had the opportunity of speaking to artists in recent months, and I specifically mean to mention Sudan and Ananya Sharma, who released their debut albums, and that had clearly taken both of them at least 2 to 3 years of effort. In comparison, an EP is relatively a smaller body of work, which is pretty easy to actually, sort of put that broad idea across uh, just in term it sounds very superficial to say so, but Taram, what I want to ask you is when you are releasing, even if it's an EP, even if it's just 4 songs in it, each song must have required a lot of deliberation in terms of songwriting, in terms of composition, in terms of mixing and mastering. How did that process play out for you?
I definitely think you're right. So I think with this EP, it was more difficult to make something like this as opposed to my previous work because this is the first ever EP. This is was actually quite a departure from my old style of music, which was much more solo focused. Um, like it was more piano centric, more vocal centric, and the production elements were just all produced on a DAW. And it was I guess less taxing to make something like that. Whereas this is we recorded everything. We recorded a whole live band. So first I had to make the arrangements in the DAW, and then I had to take it to my band, who helped come up with some of the arrangements. I took them drafts, and we sat, fleshed it out for each instrument together. And then we had to record it at a studio. So we went to a studio, recorded drums, then guitar, then bass, like all through a studio though. But this is the first project that I've had with live drums and live band production, all going through one of those big studio desks. And yeah, it was a different approach on a lot of different things. From beginning with the songwriting, I changed up my style of songwriting completely for this project, and with even the vocal production and lots of production elements were a lot more detailed and intricate. Like, I don't know if this is too technical, but I used to just do like a single take on the vocal, like a single track on the vocal. So yeah, there's a bunch of takes, but you get a single main track.
Yeah.
On this EP, we did lots of doubles on the main vocal, lots of doubles on each harmony, and processed it a certain way to sort of get different tones to sit with each song. And that was also something that was new for me. So yeah, and I shout out to the person who produced this record, Amrit Raghunathan. I don't know if you're familiar, but he produces for Till Apes. He sort of founded that band, and he's worked with Hanumankind. He works with Marianne, a bunch of different artists from the scene. But he really likes to do things the old school way. And so yeah, I guess it was tedious, but it was a beautiful process.
Well, for our viewers who aren't aware, you released your very first single, Bungee Jumping, when you were all of just 17. But even what's more interesting is that you have been a live performer since you were 12. And I came across a very cute picture of yours on Instagram where you're a baby and you're sitting in front of the keys. So
Yeah.
music has been such an integral part of your life from when you were as little as an infant. But what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get at is, Tarang, of course, from the looks of it, you were encouraged a lot by your immediate surroundings. And when I say immediate surroundings, I mean your family. They were, of course, very supportive of your music endeavors as a child. But when you choose to eventually also make that a career option. So, was that a natural progression for you, or I mean, was there ever, a thought of okay, maybe I should also have a option, have technical knowledge in some other field as well, or what was it like?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think music definitely from the very beginning. Like that's because I was encouraged. I was put in piano lessons when I was 4 years old, and like all sorts of music lessons. I did piano lessons. I did Carnatic vocals. I did Western vocals from a bunch
Oh,
of different cultures. I did at one point. I did a little bit of bass guitar lessons when I was a kid. Some guitar lessons, just like and yeah, so it was definitely very encouraged. My dad is was a musician when he was younger. He's actually plays a bunch of instruments. He plays the saxophone, the bass. He plays yeah. I mean, some of these right now you see here are just like hand me downs. That's why I have a nice studio.
but the backdrop says it all.
Yeah, really. You see that? I don't know. I'm pointing that thing over there. That is an acoustic
Yeah.
bass that my dad bought, and like that's his. So a lot of this stuff is just hand me down. So I got lucky that way, you know. But yeah, my dad was a musician when he was younger, and my mom was involved in music. So I think a big part of becoming a musician is definitely your parents' influence and love and support.
It was it, it
And
was it was there, it was just genetic.
I guess, but I think listening to good music when you're young is
Ah.
great, like super important, and really influences the style that you go into. So my dad listened to a lot of like jazz, and I think that eventually came on to me, like in terms of what I'm hearing and what I like to hear. But yeah, I like back to your question of choosing this as a career path, right? I think I always had this naive fantasy of becoming like a rock star when I was like maybe 12, 13. But I don't think that really got cemented in place until when I was about 18 years old, because I think around 18, a lot of things sort of happened in my life when I was in the 11th, 12th grade. And I lost a close friend. Like lot of sort of tragic things happened at that point in time. And most through my life, from the beginning, like music was very performed, practiced thing. So like it was important, but it was like very structured in, it was very practical, practiced, and very performative. And I always liked performing. But it wasn't until my late teens when I actually found it to be an outlet to express my emotions during hard times. And that's when it sort of changed from this very performative thing to almost like a deeply, like, for lack of a better word, like a spiritual thing. It really felt very deep at that point when I was going through a lot of things. When I was 18, I turned to the piano, and it was great to express. It felt like catharsis, and it felt very deeply meaningful. And that was the point of time when it went from, okay, I want to do this, to like, I need to do this. And I do need to do it for my expression and self therapy and like discovery. And that's when I decided, okay, because if I need to do it, then it might as well be my career and my line of work. Yeah.
Well, this makes me actually want to revisit, an interview you gave to a leading music publication of the country. And, the headline suggests that music, poetry, and art, they bring out a certain sense of light in the very dark spaces of your life. Just elaborate on that because that particular thing really, picks my interests.
So what I mean is that I've always, for some reason, during my late teens to even now, I'm always a person, I've always been sort of inclined towards philosophy. And the reason for that is because I always question the meaning of things and like what the point, like, I was an angsty teenager, like questioning what the point of anything is, and what the point, like, of following a traditional path, like having something meaningful was something that was really important to me. I didn't know what it was like exactly. I mean, I always had an inclination that music felt meaningful, but I think I have a lot of existential angst, I guess. And all of that disappears when I'm making music. Like, I mean, it's not that okay, this is the answer, like music is the answer, but the questions go away. So I mean, that's a sign that if I keep doing it, the questions go away. So that's what I mean, like when things seem pointless, I turn to music, and that is inherently like meaningful. And yeah, so it's a light when everything else seems dark.
Tarang, what's interesting actually is, while you have rendered your own music and, made some really amazing singles before the release of your highly awaited or rather highly anticipated EP, which is out now. I think two collaborations that really put the spotlight on you in a way was Superhumans with Ranjan Clifford and Ecstasy with Frizzle D'Souza. All three who are amazing acts, all three who are, very recognizable and very enterprising names from the Bangalore scene. Now, to me, what has always interested me about Bangalore is, that there's such a profound and deep sense of community. And that's also largely because of how Bangalore is this hub, this brewing hub of, so many diverse talents, from every genre, whether it is rap, whether it is pop, whether it is R&B, whether it's electronica. What I want to ask you is, Tarang, what does that kind of community bonding fill you with? What sensibilities do you feel as an artist when you have to set out for collaborations or just to work in sync with people whose work you appreciate and from whose processes you would like to learn from?
I think community and collaboration has been huge for me personally. I think whether it is like collaborating with a different artist with a different sound, or literally just working with people who are your friends. Like, one, it makes it fun because you get to hang out with your friends. But also, I think my music has been greatly influenced by the musicians that I play around. And that being my friends who are part of other bands. And so I think there's a good chance that if I lived in Bombay, I would not be making the kind of music I'm making now because I'd be influenced by that scene and that community, because I think I do partake in that community, that communal creation, like I think it's been integral for me, not only to grow and learn, but also to create whatever I have created. Like, if your friends are getting into a certain kind of music, they'll show it to you, and then you'll start listening to it. Then what you start listening to becomes what you subconsciously put influences into your own music. And so I think community has personally been huge for me. And I think working with other artists like Ranjan Marianne on Superhuman and Frizzell on Ecstasy, that is always great because one, the way I always saw collaboration was, okay, I'll create something and I'll think, okay, what does this track need? What could elevate this track? And then I'll think, okay, like on Superhuman, I really think the rap section by Ranj and Marianne's vocals really took that track to the next level. And with Frizzell as well, I think her voice sort of just completed that track with a female like energy that the track sort of needed, that ethereal R&B track, Ecstasy. So in terms of working with other artists who have their own sound, that is great, I think, to create something new and unique. But I think community goes a little deeper because I think uh, playing and working with people around you, your friends who have their own tastes, impact the source of your own creation. And that comes out like you as an artist inherently are influenced by all of that. So I think community is community is huge, not for your own creations, but for like creating with other people as well.
Beautifully said. And I think all these experiences somewhere also, sort of come to fruition when you get to do a lot of the opening acts for some really established acts. Like, you performed alongside Peter Cat Recording Company for with the Revisit project, with Mali, as part of a
Yeah.
semi-automatic building tour. What was the experience like, with all these artists? What, if I can ask you, is there a distinctive quality about them that really inspires you as an artist, and it's sort of really something that leaves you in awe?
Certainly. I think, I mean, I have to update that because I think in the last 6 months, I did a lot more opening acts for artists that really inspire me. I played alongside the F-16s last month, and I played alongside Zeitgeist Energy Exchange. I don't know if you know them, but they are a very great band from the UK who play with artists such as like Jordan Raka, Yusuf Days, Oscar Jerome, like really pioneers of the UK jazz scene and musicians that I really look up to. So I really look up to this artist called Oscar Jerome. And I got to play with Zeitgeist Energy Exchange, who plays with him as a band. And that was really a dream come true. So opening for these acts has like been really inspiring. And I like starting with so with Peter Cat, we played on the same stage at the Gin Explorers Festival, and watching them, I think Peter Cat is unparalleled as an artist because of I love their I think everything they do is so deliberate, from their visual identity. They have this little bit of mysteriousness that is, I think it's all very deliberate and very curated, and I think their sound is so unique. So I really draw inspiration from that. And the Revisit project was fun to open for. They're just a great set of musicians. The musicianship was really inspiring to see. And I loved Mali for many years. And
Ah,
I think she's a beautiful
who doesn't?
songwriter. Who doesn't, right? Yeah, who doesn't? She's a beautiful songwriter, and I think with Mali, it was all about making those songs come to life with her live set, which was really beautiful. And yeah, I think all of these artists are super inspiring, and I grow every time I open for one of these acts that I look up to, because there'll be things you notice about how deliberate their live performance is, whether it is, like what's going on in the backing track, to how the show flow is, to the instrumental arrangement sounding different from what's on the record. I think like I opened for the F16s last month, and they sound huge live. Like it's just a wall of sound. I think they've really nailed their live show. It sounds consistent, it's huge. And that was really inspiring. And that made me think, okay, I don't play with backing tracks. Maybe having some to aid and fill in space could be a really good idea. So, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Zeitgeist Energy Exchange. And so opening for them was really something, like it was a big lesson in just like the main thing I really took away. It's like one of the tangible things I took away from any artist that I was opening for is that I noticed that they didn't have a second of silence throughout the set. And what that means is like they were talking, but they always had something going on. And I think that just sort of makes the experience like there's zero like awkwardness ever, which I mean is never a problem for a pro artist, but it just keeps the party going. And that set was a dance music set, and it was just a whole experience to not hear the music stop, to hear them talk over it. And I think that was something that I really took, because I noticed when I was playing, we'd stop, we'd talk sometimes, but sometimes it's just like, man, just shut up and play. People are here to listen to the music. Like, we don't want to hear you talk. We're not paying to hear you talk. Just play, man. And like, yeah, so that's what I do now. Like we like literally immediately after, me and my band discussed this, and now we play throughout, and if there's talking, it's going over a bass line or some chords or something, and there's transitions between each song. So that was something that I really took away.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I mean, since here in Bombay, I know that there is a small community, of if I have to talk about my instant network in the music community, uh, we are a handful of journalists and people who have really been following the journeys of independent artists across the length and breadth of the country for many, many years. We make it a point to at least attend about 3, 4 shows in a month, depending on our schedules. And I think somewhere it has always been a very, very sort of a point of concern somewhere where we feel like artists should really not give us an entire lowdown of every single before they start performing it. Like that transition from one song to the other should be pretty smooth. But then we also understand that yeah, it is important where you give that kind of information, especially when you're performing to a very new audience. But as an artist, Tarang, since you spoke about it, how do you deliberate between that? Because I mean, attention spans anyway, as it is abysmally low. And to top it, to actually hold your audience's attention is going to be very daunting for any artist, especially when you are performing live. So, what is your mind space in such a situation where you have to deliberate between, you know, keeping your listeners engaged versus losing them?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I don't believe that I have cracked that code yet. I think most artists that I've seen, like I haven't seen many artists really crack that code. You usually find either or. There's artists who like to overshare and talk, and that's
Yeah.
not necessarily bad. It's just style. Sometimes I feel like for the audience, it might be a drag if you're not really good at doing it. I think it's a it's like when I got to watch, I was at Bandland and I watched this band Extreme, and they had talking. But man, first of all, you'll notice that they don't say anything negative. It's all about, and they really like address the audience and like make you feel like you're part of a conversation, make you feel special, and it's so well rehearsed. It's so well rehearsed. I'm sure they do the same thing every time, but they know exactly how to talk, when to talk, and how much to talk. And I think
Yeah.
that's a balance that takes years. But the thing is, you don't have to talk after every song. I don't know. I think when you're starting out as a performer, because the song ends and there's silence, you feel the need to break the silence with some talking. And thanks to my bandmates who insistently tell me, "Dude, Tarang," in my talk back, "Tarang, shut up, bro. Don't say anything. Let's just start the next song, bro." So like, like I think that's been something that I've been moving towards, and I also often find that a lot of the sets that I enjoy, I'm
Yeah.
there for the music. And if they have something to share, it has to be like either funny or it has to be deeply meaningful, you know? And you have to time it right, like if you're getting the audience really
True.
dancing, you don't want to like break that flow with a long monologue, maybe in the lower point of your set or like when something interesting happens to throw it in there. But yeah, it's definitely something that I am trying to get better at with every time, and I hope I can master that over the next coming years.
But do you think that also comes from a place, Tarang, where there is a certain sense of nervousness that even the artist is feeling? That sometimes, a lot of that talk also comes just as a way of compensating, for the bundle of nerves that maybe that artist is going through at that moment, and it's not something that everyone, anybody else apart from the artist can actually comprehend.
100%. I think when you have nerves, you either like, I mean, if you're really bad with nerves, you freeze up and you say, and that's when it gets awkward, which is what you try to avoid, right? But maybe you're like chatty and you're a good talker, and then yeah, when the nerves come in, you're gonna talk. And
Yeah.
I think the only way around that is to really do it more and more until the nerves the nerves will eventually go. I find the nerves, I mean, I don't know about that. So I thought my nerves had gone away, and then I played at Echoes of Earth, and that was a really big stage. So I thought the nerves were gone, but then when I stepped on stage, I felt the nerves again. But because what I've done with my band is we rehearse exactly when we break to say something, and the rest of the time we're just playing. I think I was good because of that. So I don't, if you know exactly what you're going to say, I mean, to some degree, then you don't have to like, you're not going to make up things on the spot because you're nervous. That's at least what I found. This is my experience. I can't speak for anyone, but I think this is what works for me.
Well, since you spoke of Echoes of Earth, it's a great segue that we actually discuss about, the experience that you had while performing at the festival recently at the recent concluded edition. How did that go for you?
It was a beautiful experience. I love that festival so much. The energy of the people there is I think something that you don't see at many festivals because it's a very like open-minded, people are very creative there, like the way they do the installations. And the lineups, if you might have seen, they're not necessarily the biggest commercial acts, they're more obscure, eclectic.
Because
May not, yeah. So I think people who generally come there don't know the acts, but they're willing to listen with open ears, and which is why I think it's such a great stage actually for an upcoming artist, because other festivals there's like three big headliners and people there for the headliners, but at this festival people don't know what they're in store for, so they come up. And I had someone come and tell me that like they liked preferred at this year Echoes, they preferred the starting acts, like the smaller acts to the headliners, which was really nice to hear. It's because they came to listen. And yeah, I think that's what I really noticed about the festival. The stage was huge. I've never played on a stage that big. Like physically, it was a very big stage, you know? It was a very big stage. So I've never played. So there's a lot of space to walk around, and I always like doing that. So that was something. And yeah, the crowd is great, you know. The crowd really is, like I said, open-minded and ready to party at a festival. So it was a beautiful experience. I think the hospitality and the way they do everything at that particular festival is very curated. And it was my first like major festival. So it was a good experience, lots of learnings, and yeah, I can't wait to play more.
Coming back to music, Tarang, what I noticed is that sonically you pretty naturally gravitate towards, jazz, towards disco. That seems to be completely, in a way, your vibe. I want to understand, like, as somebody who's quite the noob when it comes to specifically two genres, one is metal, the other is jazz, because I feel that both are very complex and I feel like I have a very little to absolutely no sense of understanding both genres. But what I'm trying to get at is how because you mentioned that your father was also uh, quite an ardent enthusiast of jazz as a genre. How easy was it for you to somewhere, learn the influences of the genre? What were the kind of artists, or who were your inspirations as a child that you would constantly refer to uh, when trying to come up with your soundscape?
That's a great question. So I would not necessarily say that I am playing hardcore jazz at all.
Yeah.
You know, that is jazz is like it's like an ocean. You can really get very far down there. And I think when I was a kid, I was listening to a lot of Billy Joel. And the thing
Yeah.
about Billy Joel and like is he sort of had these jazz influences, but he put it into a very nice pop context. And that's exactly what I would say I'm trying to do. There's not too much jazz apart from, it's not, I would say it's not deliberately trying to be jazzy. It's just
Yeah.
the fact, I've learned these this jazzy vocabulary on the piano, and that sort of comes out when I'm trying to do other things. And that's how it comes into the music. And I'm a big fan though of artists that sort of bridge the gap between jazz and other genres, like, and make it like accessible. I also like, even though I do sometimes listen to hardcore jazz, I much rather enjoy easy listening jazz where it's like tasteful, it's subtle, you throw it in there to like spice it up and not lose the listener entirely. And I'd say like anything jazzy that I try to do is it still maintains like catchy hooks and a strong vocal top line, and that's what I prioritize. So yeah, but with your question about how the influences, I can tell you some of my influences. I'm really influenced. Growing up, I was influenced by pianists like Billy Joel, but as I got older, I got really into the R&B neo soul space, a space that was dominated by acts like Erica Badu and D'Angelo and Prince. Um, and and as I got even older, like more recently, I got into this UK jazz scene that was sort of pioneered by artists like Tom Misch and Jordan Rakei and Yusuf Days. And so those, you could say, like, that set of influences is why I'm inspired to make the kind of music I make. I wouldn't necessarily say it's super jazzy. I would more say it's very groove centric. Like groove is an integral element of it, and it's funky, and you know, that's what I would say.
Tarang, take us through, the artists who perform alongside you as part of your band. How I think, if I'm not wrong, it's also called as the Tarang Joseph Collective in a way. So, who are your bandmates?
So thank you so much for asking that question because I get to shout them out and I always want to give them credit. So thank you for the opportunity. I couldn't have done what the record without them, and I can't do this, couldn't have done the shows without them. So I've got Surya Kalyan on the bass, who is integral to really a lot of my music because if you've noticed, the bass lines are really key. Like they're mixed up front, almost as loud as the vocals, you know. Um, and I've got Adesh on guitars, Adesh Vinod, and Shoujo Chatterjee on drums, and these boys are my friends, and we all like similar kinds of music, and we so it's beautiful working with them, and I hope to continue working with these guys. I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else.
Uh, Tarang, much of the music that you perform is in English. And when we look at 2024, and especially with the kind of breakout success that an artist like Hanumankind has seen for sticking to the English language, in his interviews, he's spoken about how a lot of people advised him to, kind of take to a more Indian language, in order to find his audience and, in order for his music to reach. What hope does that kind of success instill in an artist who is persistent about releasing music in English when, largely, I know a lot of artists who, primarily perform in English, but now they're at the receiving end of these really wise words of advice that, guys, maybe you all should consider releasing your music, you know, some of your music in Hindi or in maybe a regional tongue. So what does that kind of a success spell to you?
It gives you tremendous hope. Like, you know, someone did it. Like, who's done it like that before, huh? It's like, I think, not just for like, I think for so many artists, it's like, it's hope, you know, like it's possible. We're not all deluded. Um, so I think it's been tremendous for the whole Indian music landscape, you know, that someone has sort of put us on the map as an Indian artist making English on a global scale. And yeah, super inspiring. I think I was always I always had a vision that I would hopefully be able to do that. Now that I've seen it's possible, I feel more inclined and more confirmed on like my path. And I don't think I would have ever like branched out of English because I mean I've it's the language that I can express it, you know, because even though I am an Indian, I grew up abroad, and I think even if you know another language, you need to be able to like write from your heart in it. And you know, when sometimes you hear people get anxious or like in a stressed out situation, they switch to what's comfortable. I think that's a language you can talk in really, and the language you can speak your mind in. That is the language that you should write in. I'm not saying, you know, I mean, I think that's always going to be what's truest to you. So like the fact that Hanumankind has done it is incredible, and I think everyone is nothing but happy about it.
Well, the interesting story also somewhere lies in the fact that you know him somewhere pretty closely. So, how proud does that make you feel?
Very, very proud, and also like it was a bit absurd, if anything, to see this sort of happen from like, you know, like I've been for like, yeah, because I've known him, I've been following him since the beginning. And I think the big dogs thing was very interesting let me tell you a funny story. So like I saw the video and I was like, oh, this is another great video. He's been putting out great videos, and he's been relatively popular in the scene for maybe last 2 3 years. Like
Yeah,
people know
yeah.
about him, but never mainstream. And I think I saw this video, and then like I was like, okay, this is a really cool video, but I didn't think anything of it. And one day I was coming home, and I live in like my house, the walls are kind of thin, and they're like row houses, they're all connected and joined.
Yeah.
And when I walked, as I was coming up the stairs, I could hear my neighbor downstairs playing big dogs. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Wow, that's really cool. There's someone's playing a song. Is it like Hanumankind fan lives downstairs? Interesting. Probably a Hanumankind fan is not common. Like, so I was really stoked. Oh, there's a fan downstairs. I should talk to him. And then I came upstairs, and then at the same time, I heard my neighbor next door playing the song. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? How are both of this is not just this song is going places because, you know, fans of the Desi hip hop scene are not so common to be both my neighbors. And then I looked it up, and sure enough, it was going everywhere. It was going viral. And that's like I have heard the gardener outside play the song. And like it's everywhere. Like it's everywhere. So it's amazing. I mean, that was a like an interesting moment when I know, okay, so that's how things go viral. One day someone's not famous and then they're famous, like, yeah.
Well, a little before we conclude this amazing, sweet little chat, Tarang, that we've had, uh, it it only gets imperative that I, come to one of my favorite questions of every interview that I've had so far. Artists in the Indian independent music scene today who you love listening to at leisure and whose work immensely, inspires you.
Great question. I would say Peter Cat Recording Company is definitely one. Although they are pretty big now. I would
Yeah.
say I really like the
So let's
F-16s as well.
rephrase it this way. Let's rephrase it this way. Um, Emerging new artists that, in your opinion, we should check out.
Okay. I'm a big fan of Till Apes. I think they
Okay.
are great. Um, and they are sort of like friends from the same circle, which is why I think subconsciously, even my music is in that funk space. It's because it's a circle of friends that we all kind of jam together. They are amazing. I really like, well, I don't know how big you mean, but I'm a big fan of Mali. She's pretty established, but I really like her work, her songwriting. Um, I really like, I think Loyal is quite underrated, and I performed with him 2 months ago. He called me on to play
Yeah.
with him, and he's a tremendous talent. When you watch him at work, he very creative guy. um I really like Nato 8. um he makes amazing music. I am a fan of the local scene, like my friends. I think Marianne is doing cool stuff. She's got a great voice. Ranj Frizzell is doing cool stuff, you know. My drummer has a band called Apartment Upstairs. I think
Ah,
he and another guy called Rohan Pai are part of Apartment Upstairs. I think they make great music. I think they are underrated. People should. I think I tell them they should release more music. People should go check them out. They are really cool.
I'm
And
definitely checking them out because they're a new name to me for sure. So I'm
yeah,
definitely checking them out.
I'm glad. I mean, there's a lot of dope artists from this Amplify music incubator that I was a part of. Like,
Yes.
I mean, Sudan's album is great, and I think everyone. Oh, I mean, there are so many I could shout out if I get into my Amplify cohort, but I'll tell you, watch out for the Amplify cohorts. They're gonna put out some cool music.
As we conclude this interview, Tarang, since it's barely been about a couple of months that the EP has been out, I understand that it's pretty premature to ask if there's new music coming up, if there's new music on the horizon anytime soon. But I'm sure, I think your priority number one right now would be to take these songs, to a live audience and play as many shows as possible. Is that true?
Okay, so interestingly enough, I've been playing these songs live for the last year and a half. So um, there is new music, and I've been playing the new music also live to audiences for the last 6 months. So yeah, you can expect some new music pretty soon in the new year. Okay, you heard it here first, like I have an album coming, but I haven't announced it. But yeah, I have an album coming, and I don't know when it'll be done and it'll be out, but I'm trying to put it out next year. And I think I'm pretty excited about the music. So
So
yeah,
I understand that this was supposed to be my last question, but I think it's also only fitting that I ask you this before we conclude this interview. I think, Tarak, what I need to understand from you is, uh, do you somewhere feel the pressure of putting out quantitative music over qualitative music?
definitely. Definitely. And I didn't feel that pressure until now, but I have a manager, and we were talking about how it's important that in the last 6 months, my career has built a substantial amount of momentum with the gigs and the EP, and how momentum is really important, and it's important not to disappear. So I don't know. It's still something I'm
Yeah.
wrestling with, because I really think quality is everything, because at the end of the day, you're going to look back on this 5 years from now and think, was that a good project that I put out? Because in 5 years' time, maybe waiting 3 months or 4 months is not a big deal. And you'd rather have something that's timeless and something that is solid than something that you kind of skimped on and rushed a little bit. So that being said, if I'm being honest, I do feel the pressure. I'm still going to try to find the balance.
Well, here's hoping that not only do you find the balance in the new year that's around the corner, but you also find a lot of strength to sail through uh, more years of competition, more years of hard work, hustle, everything that it takes. But may it always strengthen your journey ahead and. Yeah, keep the good music coming in, Tarang. I think just the way this EP has rolled out and the fact that I am obsessively in love with Liquid Sunshine, the single, I think it is only, you know, fitting that the kind of music that you are, setting your heart out to finds its eventual fulfillment. And I wish you all the very best for everything that lies ahead. Thank you so much once again, Tarang, for taking the time out to speak to me and on VJ's playlist. And I hope we connect again soon in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. It was honestly so nice talking to you about this. Like, I really like that, like, you are so prepared compared to um a lot of journalists. It's like it's I really appreciate it. And yeah,
Oh,
thank you so much. And I had a great time talking to you. It was fun.
bro, didn't hesitate. But thank you so much, Tarak. That was very sweet of you. To our viewers who are watching, thank you so much. That's a wrap on that's a wrap on VG's playlist in 2024. We hope to see you as I bring more interviews of a lot of amazing Indian acts that we have, and hope to see you around in 2025 and so on. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to you too, Tarang.
Merry Christmas to
And
you.
I hope the coming year ahead brings a lot more possibilities and happiness for all of us. But thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back soon.